Hello guys, so I had a request for a video doing some of the 1.10 problems that use the calculator. So I'm going to do 13 and probably 14. Hopefully I can fit this in one video, but we'll see, I might do two. So it says using a graphing utility to graph the function, which expresses the weekly cost to rent a car as a function of the number of miles driven during the week. So first we're going to go to y equals and graph the function. Okay, and then we can look at it. Now this is using a -10 to +10 standard window, which is why it's not showing me anything. It says, using graphing utility, each graph is shown in this viewing rectangle here. So I'm going to fix my window to match their window. What this means is my x value has a minimum of -200 and a maximum of 1400. And they want the tick marks to go every 100. Then the y-axis has a minimum of -50, a maximum of 450, and they want those tick marks every 50 units. So I need to fix my window to match their window. I hit the window button. That way our screens match up. And this will make it so that my tick marks aren't 1, 2, 3, 4. My tick marks are 100, 200, 300. Then I need to change my y's from -50 to 450. And the tick marks are every 50 units. Okay, so this, they gave you this. So you just type it in to match. And then you can see that it is using this function, right? Isn't that the one that matches? Yeah. So our answer is A. Then it says use trace or zoom to determine how many miles a person drove during the week if the weekly cost was $320. So that means the y value is 320, and they want to know x, how many miles were driven during the week. So I need to figure out, if my y value is 320, what is my x value? So what are my choices here? Oh, just units. Well, we know it's miles because this says miles. That's kind of silly. But we need to figure out how many miles. So if we use trace, oh look, it went straight to 320. That's funny. If you hit trace, you can move up and down the graph here. And it 320 comes out nice and even, so I guess the calculator just started me on 320. So at $320, we must have driven 600 miles. 600 miles. That was hitting the trace button. Hitting trace lets you follow along the line. Even though I'm just hitting the right arrow, it's following along the line. So I can find any point on here that I want. But what they wanted was 320 for the y value. So right there. Okay? Alright, so let's try the next one because that one was a little easy. So this one says, use a graphing utility to graph this function. This represents the volume of a box as a function of the length of the side of the square cut from each corner, where the cardboard has a side length of 60 inches. So I don't know if you guys have seen a picture for this in one of the other problems. Let me draw you a picture real quick. Basically, they take a box, not a box, they take a square. I'm trying to draw a square. There we go. And they're cutting corners out of the square. Oops. So they're going to cut out square corners. They're supposed to be the same size. I'm struggling with the computer, but pretend these are all the same size. And what happens is when they cut out these corners, these flaps here get folded up to make the sides of the box. So the box will be this big on the bottom, and then these will be the sides once they fold it up. So it doesn't have a top, it's an open box. But this will be the base of the box, and then these will be the sides of the box. So it's saying it was a 60-inch piece of cardboard, and then they cut out these corners. Okay, so it says to graph this and then use the trace or maximum function to find the length of the side of the square. So I think this is probably more what you were asking for, because this one doesn't give you a window. So how do you know what window to use? So I'm going to go back to the standard window first, because this is where everybody's would start. So we start with a standard window, and we can't see anything. So it's like, where do we go? We can't see it. So we don't know where the graph is. One thing I do to try and figure out what my window values should be is I go to the table and I look at how large some of these values get. Like these get to be very big numbers, right? So I need to, oh look, so 16,000 is about as big as it gets. So after that it starts going back down. So based on that information, I'm going to make my window go from, let's leave the -10 to +10 alone for a second. Let's have it go all the way up to 20,000. Because I know my maximum is 16,000, I know 20,000 will be tall enough. I probably don't even need 20,000. I could make it just 18,000 if I want. I'm going to fix my tick marks. I don't want my tick marks 1, 2, 3, 4 because that's too many tick marks. So maybe I'll make my tick marks every 1,000. Okay. So then when I graph it, remember these Y value tick marks are every 1,000, and I can kind of see the main chunk of my graph here. I need to see a little more to the right, and I obviously don't need anything over here to the left. So I'm going to go back to my window. I don't need the negative x values. Okay, I don't need the negative x values, so I'll make that 0. But I need more of the positive x values, so maybe I'll make that 30. I don't know. Here's the thing with this. I'm just making it up. Like, it seems like the numbers are random, but it's because they don't have to be anything in particular. Like, I didn't have to use 18,000. I could have used 17,000. It would have been fine. I just need something that shows me my graph. I need something that shows me the full picture. Okay, so right now I've got it set from going from 0 to 30, and I have it going from 0 to 18,000. Right? I did my x-axis 0 to 30, and my y-axis, oh, I went -10 to 18,000. Okay? It doesn't matter. Like, it's not like if I went to 20,000 it would be wrong. I just need something that shows me the full picture. Now, I got an idea by going to the table. That's how I knew it needed to be really, really large numbers, because I could see how big the numbers went in the table. Does that make sense? I don't know why I'm asking because you can't hear me, but okay. So 0 to 30 is what I used. The view and example might use something different, but this is enough to get me a full picture. So now let's see what it's asking for. It's asking for use the trace or maximum feature to find the length of the side of the square that should be cut to produce the greatest possible volume. So this function represents volume based on x, And x is the side length of the little squares that we're cutting out. So depending on what size little square we cut out, our volume might be bigger or smaller. So we need to find this maximum here. So this x value is the size, sorry, that was my dog. This x value is the square that we're cutting out. The y value is the volume we get in our box. I need this. Okay. So to get the maximum, we go second trace. So I did second trace. That brings me to the calc menu. Maximum is right here. And then it asks a couple things. It says left bound, meaning it wants to know the left side of the maximum. So anywhere on the left side, it doesn't matter. Anywhere on the left side, I'm going to hit enter. And then anywhere on the right side, I'm going to hit enter. So anywhere on the right side. So you see how I put these little arrows here? Basically, we just told the calculator, look in between here and here to find a maximum. Like we're giving the calculator a space to look at. And then when it says guess, we say enter, because we do want it to guess. And it finds that the maximum is at x equals 10, and it gets us the y value of 16,000. Meaning, if we cut out squares that are 10 by 10, that will maximize the volume of this box, right? It's going to fold up to make a box. Something like that. Boxes are hard to draw. It's going to fold up to make a box with the maximum value, that's 16,000. So what is the length of the side of the square that should be cut from each corner? That's 10. The side of the square that should be cut is 10. The maximum volume that we get if we cut out the 10-inch corners is 16,000. Okay? So hopefully that helps with the questions about the window. Honestly, it's very flexible. You could have picked different numbers and this still would have worked out. You just needed to pick window ranges that let you see the full picture of the graph, the main part of the graph. So go to the table to get an idea of how big it needs to be, and then just pick window ranges that will show you enough information. And like what I did, I ended up needing to go back into the window to add a little bit more to my x-axis. You can go back and forth and adjust it until you get a picture that you like. Okay, I hope that helps. If you have any more questions, you can post them in the forum or send me an email. But I think that's what you were looking for. So I will see you guys later.